World History, Chapter 28, Section 5, Hitler and the Rise of Nazi Germany. How did Hitler and the Nazi Party establish and maintain a totalitarian government in Germany? And so the things you should be focusing on and the problems that were faced by the Weimar Republic, the Nazi Party's political, social, economic, cultural policies and beliefs, and then the rise of other authoritarian rule in Eastern Europe in the 20s and 30s, and some of the factors that contribute to that. So when we look at the Weimar Republic's rise and fall, it is the government that replaces the German government at the end of World War I. And the Germans get together, they create a constitution, and they did it in the town of Weimar, which is why they call it the Weimar Republic. When we look at some of the political struggles that they're facing, it's another type of government like France's, where there's a bunch of really small political parties and they get proportional representation. And so what needs to happen is for the government to rule, groups of these small parties have to come together and form a coalition to be able to get to 50% or more of the votes. And that's a really difficult thing to do. The moderate party is by far the biggest of all these parties, but it is constantly getting challenged and bombarded from both the far left, like socialists and communists, and from the far right that want to return to a government like with Bismarck. And it's just really tough for this moderate party to be able to bring these smaller, more radical groups into the fold to get anything passed. The one thing that all of these have in common is they all hated the Treaty of Versailles. And the real problem here is the Weimar Republic is the one that has to sign the Treaty of Versailles. And they're going to get the blame for this horrible treaty, this harsh treaty, and all the garbage that comes with it. Now, the other factor that's going to happen here is that they are not able to make their reparation payments. Another thing is France is going to invade a part of Germany that is a coal-rich part of Germany in retaliation for Germany not making their reparation payments. So France is like, well, we're just going to take this coal-rich area and we're going to call that good for at least a couple of the payments. But you better start paying your money or we're going to take even more land and territory. So in response, what the Weimar Republic does is they just keep printing more and more money. And so here's a picture of a group of kids who are stacking this money up because it's essentially worthless. To illustrate this point for you, something that cost 100 marks, so essentially that's the German dollar, something that would have cost $100 in 1922, July of 1922, a year later cost 944,000 marks or dollars. Again, I'll try and put it in perspective. You go and you fill up your car after school today, and it's $30. And then next year, you go to fill up your car, and it costs you $283,200 to fill up your car. The real problem here is even though salaries are increasing, they can't keep up to the rate of inflation. And so people can't afford to buy necessities, and their entire life savings is gone. The United States didn't want to see Europe fall immediately into World War II after World War I. So we have to figure out a way to help deal with this reparation payment crisis that's going on. So what we do is we send bankers from the United States over to Europe. The U.S. loans Germany all the money they need to make these reparation payments. Germany turns around and pays that money to Great Britain and France, who then turn around and pay back the United States all the money that they owe. This is a temporary fix. It got things under control, and then the Great Depression hits, and everything blows up in everybody's face. So when we look at Hitler, Hitler is from Austria. While he goes to Vienna, he develops this very anti-Semitic view. He joins the German army in World War I, and post-World War I, he joins a group of ex-soldiers who are very disappointed with the way things turned out. They're angry about the treaty. They don't like the conditions in Europe. They feel like the government has betrayed them. It's a horrible government. And what he's going to do is he's going to lead an attack on the German government and try and overthrow it. He's thrown in jail, and while he's in jail, he writes Mein Kampf, My Struggle, This is his manifesto. This is the thing that has all of his beliefs in it. And what you see is this strong strain of nationalism, racism, and anti-Semitism. And he also makes the argument that the Germanic peoples are descended from an Aryan race that is superior to all the other groups of people. The other thing that he argues in there is that the German people are overcrowded. They need what he calls Lebensraum, living room. And this is a propaganda piece put out by the Nazi Party showing how much room people in Great Britain have and how much room the people in France have and how Germany is so overcrowded. And what they need is they need to expand because they need more room for their kids and their families. So he begins to speak. And while he's giving these speeches, he is promising a couple different things. One is he's going to end these reparations. He's going to end these payments that humiliate Germany. He's going to create jobs for homeless and out-of-work people, and that he's going to rearm Germany. He is going to get Germany back on the right track again. When we look at the next step in his rise to power, what you see happening is both the Nazi Party and the Communist Party are gaining seats in the legislature. The one that is terrifying the conservative Germans the most, the business people and the leaders, are the communists. So they decide that they are going to build a coalition with Hitler and the Nazi Party, and they believe that Hitler's not a half bad guy and that he can be controllable. What they don't realize is that once they give him the reins, he is going to, within a year, become dictator. And then what he does is, like Stalin, he's going to purge his party of all those people who he doesn't think are true blue, 100% believers. And those people he's going to get rid of. Anybody that he sees as a potential threat or rival, he's going to get rid of. And that's what's going to happen over the course of the next several years. The other thing that he's going to do is he's going to launch a public works program. So this is a picture on the right of the Autobahn. And the Autobahn was built during this period of time. It's going to put lots of people to work. It's going to take lots of materials. And it's going to help restart the economy. He also begins to rearm Germany, which is a violation of the treaty. And the other thing he's going to work towards is what he calls Anschluss. He's going to reunite Germany and Austria so that they can become the powerful country they once were. He's then going to build a totalitarian state. And again, the Nazi Party is going to control all aspects of German life. The SS is like the black shirts. These are the people who are going to go around and round up anybody who causes them any trouble, as well as the Gestapo, the secret police. And so here is a hanging of the Gestapo outside of a prison of political prisoners. And there's a picture of the Nazi Party burning books, again, controlling all aspects of German life, what people have access to. The next step is the campaign against the Jewish people and the Nuremberg laws. What's going to happen in the Nuremberg laws is it's going to take away citizenship from the Jewish people. It's also going to severely restrict where Jews can live, businesses that they can run, who they can and cannot marry, and all of those types of things are going to get going. And what they need is an excuse. And that's going to happen when a German diplomat is killed in Paris, France by an out-of-work Jewish person. Hitler and the Nazi Party use that as an excuse for Kristallnacht, the night of broken glass. They're going to attack Jewish communities, not all through Germany, but in neighboring countries as well. And eventually what's going to grow out of this is going to be the Wannsee Conference. And at the Wannsee Conference, that's where they're going to outline their plan for dealing with the Jewish people. And this is a document from that. It shows all of the estimated numbers of people, Jewish people living in different countries. And their goal is to eliminate over 11 million people from the face of the earth. When we look at the Third Reich controlling Germany, one of the key pieces of this is the Nazi youth. Just like with Mussolini in Italy, you want to get them young. teach them absolute loyalty. They're going to rewrite textbooks talking about German greatness and how great Hitler is and all those types of things. They're going to force women out of the workforce so that they can be at home and producing more kids for the fatherland, for Germany. And so on the right is a book called Children, What Do You Know About the Fuhrer? And so it's going to talk about how wonderful Hitler is and how great he is, and almost create and turn him into a godlike figure. When you look at German culture, they're going to try and get rid of anything that is not 100% German. So, for example, jazz was becoming popular. They're going to get rid of jazz. They're going to encourage these old Germanic myths that date back centuries. They're going to encourage people to listen to the classical operas written by famous German composers. When you look at religion, they're going to take all Protestant churches and they're going to turn them into one state church. And then the Nazi Party is going to control what is said in that church. And they're going to try and replace religious beliefs with a kind of racial creed, that the Aryan people are superior and all those types of things. When you look at Catholicism, they're going to close Catholic schools and they're going to try and muzzle Catholic priests and try and really control what's happening on Sundays. When we look at the rest of Eastern Europe, they have lots of problems. These are going to be carved out of what was the Austro-Hungarian Empire, the Ottoman Empire, the Russian Empire. And these are all very small. They tend to be rural. They didn't lack a whole lot of money or resources. There's big inequalities between rich and poor. And most importantly, they really didn't have any kind of democratic experience. And so they're not really set up to be very successful post-World War I. And then when you look at what happens because of World War I, these countries are going to compete with each other. They're not going to cooperate. They're not going to help each other build up industry and trade. And then when the Great Depression hits, it really wipes out any kind of gains that they had made. On top of that, there's lots of these ethnic and religious tensions that we've already talked about, the Balkans in particular. And all of these new countries are going to contain some of these old rivalries, so they're not even going to work together within these countries. So little by little, bit by bit, democracy is going to retreat. When you look at these common characteristics, big-time economic problems, ethnic, racial, religious tensions, is going to lead to instability. Once you get to instability, that opens the door for fascist totalitarian rulers to come in and to offer solutions to all the hard problems. They're going to promise order, and because of that, they're going to get the support of the military and the wealthy, and then they're going to be able to gain total control of all of those countries.